and welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Cannell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson. Thanks to all of you who are joining right now on youtube.com/cover3 every single Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We will be here giving you our locks. Subscribers, if you're listening, thank you as well. Getting it at the normal time. Maybe it's Thursday lunch. Maybe it's Thursday afternoon, Friday. Maybe you're just getting tuned up to get these locks in on Saturday. But if you do want to join the fun, it is always available at youtube.com/cover3. Gentlemen, the pre-show conversation included, I heard the quote, well, I've got anywhere from 7 to 25 locks. So let's go ahead and waste no more time and jump into a quick review of what we saw in week 2. So Tom Fornelli, 6-3 on the week. San Diego State +2.5. Air Force Navy Service Academy unders standard. A lock fight win against Danny with the under in Michigan, Washington. We've got the Iowa win at +4.5. Really not much of a doubt there. Ball State didn't put up much of a fight. The Texas A&M team total over went down with Haynes King in that injury. And would they have hit it with him? I don't know. That's something for another time. Texas -6.5, also a loss. But then you came in with a lock fight win against Chip. Are you 2-0 now against me?
I think so, yeah. I'm just dominating your ass.
Yeah, the Oregon and Ohio State under was the win, and then Vandy +7 with the win. Again, 6-3 on the week. That brings your total on the season to 12-9 +2.1 units. Any notes or observations from the week?
No, nothing really stood out to me. I mean, I'm going to operate under the assumption that had Haynes King not gotten hurt, they'd have clearly scored at least 34 points, probably 70.
Clearly. Chip had a 4-5 week, -1.5 units. The UNITY lock unity takes a big L with Missouri +5.5. Then stacking up some wins with the Service Academy unders, App State +9 against Miami, the Cy-Hawk under 46, and then came a bunch of losses. NC State -2.5, loss. Oklahoma State -13, nearly lost it on the field. Texas -6.5, did lose it on the field. Oregon, Ohio State over. I don't know. I was still sweating that all the way down to the end, but it was not because of Ohio State getting off the bus and scoring 40, as we have discussed throughout the week. And then I also cashed in on the Vanderbilt win. Danny, you were right there. Danny and Bud right there with Missouri. A loss on Washington +7, a loss on Michigan, Washington over, a loss on Iowa State -4, a loss on Illinois +10. Then come the dubs. Tulsa +13.5. That's a lock fight win against Chip. Then you've got the Western Kentucky Bailey Zapp +7. Also tagging it with the DK 2-for-1 special on the over 52 and Texas Arkansas over 56 cashes. 4-5 week as well, -1.5 units. You are 12-10 on the season. Danny, any thoughts or observations?
Stay above water early in the season. I'm happy where I am. I've done more prep. I'm in a great mood. I don't know why, because Florida State has former players tweeting at recruits, telling them don't go there. Other than that, I'm doing great. Let's go.
Bud has Missouri +5.5 in a loss. Washington +7 is a loss. We got the first half under 24.5. Cal-TCU is a loss. Then we cash a win. Iowa +4.5. Loss on NC State. Loss on the Texas A&M team total. Loss on the Ohio State first half team total. UMass +38. Minutemen getting the dub. I mean, just some traitorous activity to take Colorado State against our beloved Doors, but that -7, you really... You hold that L. Texas A&M first half -9 is a loss. Georgia State +26.5 against North Carolina is a loss. Pitt -3. Hail to Pitt. That's a win. Troy +4.5 is a loss. A push on the Colorado first half team total under 7.
I misstated it on the pod. I bet it's 7.5, and I think I just said under 7.
Tulsa first half team total under 8.5 is a win. And the Akron team total under 21.5 is a loss. That is
backdoored like crazy on that.
4-11 on the week, -8.1 units, but still 17-13 on this young season so far. That is let's see. So Chip right now in first place on the season, up 4.1 units, followed by Bud, followed by Tom, followed by Danny. But before we jump into, let me get this off the screen. Tom, once we get on the other side of coming to get these, you will have the honors on the tee box. But gentlemen, y'all ready to lock it up?
Let's do it.
We're picking locks.
My blue plate special 5-star locks are coming.
Since 2005, when Service Academies
Go get these locks. 5-star master lock. Lock it up.
the under is 33-9-1. We've gone over it a million times.
You want these locks?
I'm living and dying every point, every cover.
All right, Mr. Fernelli, you have the honors on the tee box as the week 2 winner. I think you can just take us wherever you want to go. There's if you have an Ohio, Louisiana pick that you are feeling rock solid confident in, then take us there. But other than that, I think the full board is open.
I do have a pick for Ohio, Louisiana, but I'm not putting it on the pod. I got it at Ohio plus 20.5, and it has quickly gone down to 19.5 since. Something's going on I don't know about, but that's where I would go if you're listening to this right now. As for my first official lock, as soon as I get my voice back after swallowing water down the wrong pipe, I am going to go with the shirt I'm wearing. My favorite play of the week is Michigan State plus 6.5 at Miami. I just have very little faith in the Hurricanes right now. Like, obviously, they got blasted by Alabama in the season opener. I don't really hold that against them. But there were a lot of flaws in that game that were put on display and shown to the world by Alabama. And I think last week, App State took advantage of a lot of them, keeping that game close. Miami needing a field goal in the final minutes to avoid starting off 0-2 with a home loss to a Sunbelt team, even if it is a good Sunbelt team. And I look at this Michigan State team, and if you look at the competition they've played so far, it's not exactly, murderer's row of opponents, but they have just come out from the start, like literally first play of the game, both weeks they've scored. And they have dominated both games that they've played in against the opponents. Like Northwestern, as I said, we're probably not going to be a great team this year, but they dominated Northwestern for 60 minutes. And then last week they came out and dominated. And I just think that there is an element to this offense now as far as the passing game where it's not what I would, they're not running an air raid and they're not blowing things up, but there is a competency level and more of an explosiveness to the passing game that I have seen Michigan State have in a while. So I think this is probably the most complete Spartans team we've seen. And I think defensively, they're sound enough to where they could kind of, keep Derek King in the pocket and make him beat him with his arm. And as we've seen through the first 2 weeks with Derek King coming back from that ACL and not really being as mobile as he was, it's been pretty effective. Like Miami's offense has stuttered. So I think the Michigan State, I'm taking them in the points, but I don't think it's crazy to think that they're going to go on the road and beat Miami on Saturday.
I don't think it's crazy. It's not a lock, but I don't want any piece of Miami. Do y'all have any counter, any plays on this?
Tom, I'm there with you in spirit. I played 7.5 at over 53.5 earlier in the week. I can't quite get there to throw it on the lock spot at 6.5, but I'll give you a cool stat that might help you feel good about this.
Yes.
DeAndre Smith was probably Miami's best linebacker. He's going to be out for a while. Miami, if you listen to the Inside the U podcast, they love their defensive line-ish. They thought their secondary was pretty good. Linebacker already cause for concern, and then DeAndre Smith goes down. Maybe something Michigan State can exploit. I guess we'll see.
I got to play. I don't like it. I'm 0-2 in lock fights versus Tom. We're going to fight.
Wow.
Fight. I think Miami has been very predictable to this point, what they've been, right? Like I don't think any one of us gave them a real chance versus Alabama. The game was a hard one. Great competition. The App State game, I think App State's pretty good. Like, and it's a tough team. It's a tricky out. That game had hangover written all over it, found a way to win. Miami is 0-2 against the spread to start the season. They have only started 0-3 against the spread one time in the past 40 years. They are not going to do it again. It is not going to be number 2. Miami wins and covers. I think the difference here that maybe Tom is underestimating, living up there in Chicago, just kicking it in the nice, cool fall weather. I'm looking outside right now. It is raining. It is humid. And this is a noon kick. It is going to be hot. Miami thrives in the heat. I think the competition matters. I think that Miami's definitely more battle tested, although I'm a little bit worried that around the third or fourth quarter, if I look up there and it's a little bit tighter, it's going the wrong way, I'm going to say, man, I wish Rocky Lombardi was under center for Michigan State. But I still like the Canes in this one at home to get it done. Little ACC versus Big Ten fight going on.
It's been 85 degrees here in Chicago for every day the last 2 weeks.
But the humidity, you don't understand the humidity.
Oh,
do you
yes,
sweat
I
when
do.
you go outside and walk the
Yes.
dogs?
Yes. Do you
Not like
understand?
you do here.
I lived right next to a giant body of water. There's plenty of humidity here too.
Oh,
Yeah,
see.
that is the one bit of like pushback that I've seen, because look, given what we've seen from Michigan State and Miami, I don't think Tom's alone in thinking that Sparty's in a very interesting spot to be able to maybe even go up and get the upset. And the pushback, Danny, that I continue to see is like, noon kick, they're screwed. You know, get out the hydration. You're not going to be able to handle it down there in that South Florida heat. So we'll see if the weather ends up being a storyline. We'll see if the weather ends up being a storyline throughout this very podcast.
I think Sparty's got plenty of players from Florida. They'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Okay, Bud, do you have a loaded card? So do we need to just go ahead and start getting these out?
Every three, but we go one, he goes three. We go one, he goes three. That's what we should do.
All right, I'm going to go to a team that I lost with last week, right? Troy did not get it home for me. After watching that game, I don't feel bad about that bet, really. Both Liberty and Troy battled. I had Troy plus the 4.5, and Liberty got him by 7. But I would fire that again. I think Troy can play some pitch and catch. They were not very good inside the opponent 40. However, I don't know if you guys caught this note or not. This is potentially, kind of important. Southern Miss quarterback Trey Lowe is now listed on the depth chart with an or with Ty Keys, who I believe is a freshman there at Southern Miss. Troy Lowe started the first 2 games for Southern Miss, and then he was in street clothes and a boot on the sideline in last week's game against Grambling. I played Troy -9. That's not available anymore. For the lock spot, I will play Troy minus the 10. I think
get you 9.5.
Absolutely. Give me 9.5. I think they will throw it around, and I just think they're going to win this one comfortably. Troy's defense may be a little bit better than I thought, actually, given how well they played against Liberty.
Do you have Troy as like a top 65, top 70 kind of team?
I have Troy. Where do I have Troy? I make this game minus 14 if that gives you an indication of how good I think they are.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and take us to let's get the headliner out of the way. Let's see who's going to actually throw something down on the lock stock, because when we have Auburn, who's not yet really been tested, going to take on a Penn State team that, passed its first test against Wisconsin. And, as much as we wanted to use our emotions about the house divided cover 3 family rivalry with Ball State and Penn State, I think that seeing Penn State just handle business is something that's encouraging. However, I am not prepared to lay points with Sean Clifford, and I am not prepared to take Bo Nix on the road. So with a very simple explanation, I figure that we can get our Penn State Auburn conversation going with saying it's Sean Clifford against Bo Nix. I will be taking the under.
Yeah, 53.
Okay, let's go.
Anybody going anywhere on that total?
I am.
Oh, fight.
I'm going again. Fights like it was such a good Thursday. You guys heard me. I was listening to Bob Marley before the show, like in a great mood. So Auburn scored 60-plus points back-to-back weeks, first time since 1932. Large part because of the run game. I still think the run game could be explosive. Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter going off last week. Sean Clifford's been playing better. He really has. He's gone over 230 yards passing in the last 4 games.
2021.
Don't laugh at me. And he's had 0 interceptions. He's taking better care of the ball. There's a piece of me. This is very much a contrarian play because I think the majority of people are going to think like you. We're going to get a reenactment of Graham Mertz versus Sean Clifford. But I'll remind you, in that game, Mike Yurcich dialed up some big plays. Clifford missed on some of those. I think we're going to see incredible atmosphere. I think you're going to see more offense than the 53. So give me the over, the total. 2 fights for me to start it off.
I don't know why you two are so obsessed with the total when the play here is incredibly obvious.
Penn State.
You're talking about it being the battle of Bo Nix and Sean Clifford. Who the hell wants to bet on Bo Nix on the road? Like,
Hey, you have the splits pulled up right now?
I do have the splits.
Yeah,
Thank you for asking, Chip. Here's Bo Nix, who has been, through his career, he's been pretty good at home. He's completed, 63% of his passes, 7.7 yards per attempt, 15 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On the road, his completion rate drops to 54.5%. His YPA plummets to 5.7 per attempt, and he's thrown more touchdowns, 10, than he has touchdowns or interceptions than touchdowns. He's not good on the road. This is going to be his first road start of the season in front of 100,000 people, all wearing white and going crazy because it is the big prime time game. So they're going to be tailgating all day, and they're going to be drunk as hell come nighttime, and they're going to be loud. They're going to be raucous, and I can get Penn State -4.5. So I'm taking Penn State -4.5.
This thing has moved 1.5 since what, yesterday?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm a little bit worried about it, but I'm not worried about it at all.
It opened 4.5.
Okay.
And I bet Penn State -4.5.
Okay.
However, there is something I like even more in this game than the Penn State -4.5. Now that team totals are out a little bit late this week,
Yeah,
I want that
I
Auburn
was
under
thinking about it
24 team total. All right. So Auburn played Akron. They put up like 10 yards play against Akron. We covered this, I think, already twice this week. But if you guys are new to Locks Pod, I'm going to go over this again. Auburn, with their newfound offense, dropping 60 points on people. Got 10 yards of play before garbage time against Akron. Akron, who plays a whole bunch of freshmen and walk-ons in that game. Akron, last weekend, against Temple's backup quarterback at home, 8 yards of play allowed before garbage time. Auburn really didn't do anything to Akron's defense that Temple, with the backup quarterback, didn't do on the road to Akron's defense. I do not want to bet the game under here because I do think that Penn State is one of these sneaky pace teams, right? And they're trying to play a lot faster this year. Like them, Arizona, there's a couple more that are really cranking off a lot more plays and drives based on how they're playing. But I like that Auburn under 24 team total. To me, that's I feel good about that. But
Okay.
Tom, I'm with you there on that 4.5 too. Just I won't lock agreement because I like this better.
Listen, we're talking about a quarterback who has multiple names. I mean, Josh Pate called him Bo Picks yesterday on the Early Edge afternoon show at 3 p.m. I'm seeing in the comments, you just got to say no to Road Bo, says Will. I mean, there are nursery rhymes written about not trusting the Auburn quarterback in these positions. So it seems like this is contrarian Danny. He could either have our way or else we're all walking to the window with thinking that this is going to be the same kind of game. While we're talking about headliners, does anybody have a Florida-Bama play? Florida-Bama?
I do.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm not overthinking this one. I'm laying the points with Alabama. I think the best I can get right now on the show is 14.5. I was able to get 14. Oh, no, wait. There's a 14. Thank you, unnamed sportsbook. I'm not overthinking it. Florida they've got the QB controversy. Emory Jones has not been good. The fans want Anthony Richardson, but for some reason, Dan Mullen's not putting Anthony Richardson out there. And I trust that Dan Mullen, if he's not putting Anthony Richardson out there, there's plenty of reasons for it. I think that Mullen kind of alluded to it in the press conference where it's like, yeah, you're seeing all the great plays, but you're not seeing the stuff that he's missed. And I think that against Alabama, you can get away with that kind of stuff against USF and FAU. You're not going to get away with missing reads and that kind of stuff against Alabama. So I don't expect Anthony Richardson to be starting or playing the majority of the game here. I think it's going to be the same situation with Emory Jones and Richardson. And I don't think it's going to matter because I don't think that this Florida offense is capable of scoring enough points to keep up with Alabama. And I do worry a little bit about Bryce Young starting on the road in an environment like this for the first time in his career. So I do worry that there's going to be a slow start. So I would maybe consider Florida in the first quarter or first half. But I think that once we get going for the full 60 minutes, Alabama, once it settles in, is just going to be able to move the ball down the field pretty consistently, and Florida's not going to be able to keep up. So I am taking Alabama minus 14.
I don't hate that, Tom. I played Florida plus 14.5 over the summer, and I thought Florida's offense would look better than it did. And obviously, I have to eat that. Well, I can't. It's not a loss yet, but I don't feel like that's a winner at this point. But no play for me in this.
I think it's going to play out with a slow Bryce Young start, and I think Alabama's going to cover. I think that there's just going to be that huge swing where Florida might even lead, let's say 17-14, midway through the second quarter. And then all of a sudden it's just going to stop. And Alabama will slowly but surely tack on one touchdown after another. And when you look up at the end of the game and it's, 42-24, you're going to be like, oh, I guess Alabama won. I really thought Florida was competitive, but they just are so relentless. And once Bryce Young gets comfortable, then yeah, I could totally see Alabama being able to pull away for that cover.
I got to play. I'm attacking the total. I think Tom's on the right side. I just, you mentioned Bryce Young, first time, hostile environment. I think Florida's defense is better than they were last year. I'll be interested to see if their defensive line can get any pressure, but I have very little confidence in Florida's offense to do much. So I'm going to take the under. I think this will be one of those more like 34-14, one of those, just like Bama kind of controls it. Second half starts to pull away, kind of just like that boa constrictor, just sucks the life out of the game. Bill O'Brien's first SEC kind of quality opponent. I just think you'll see Saban get back to, hey, let's get out of here. And again, I think Anthony Richardson's the guy for Florida. Bud was on that early. I think maybe some of it has to do with his hamstring. Some of it has to do with the opponent. I think eventually he ends up starting. But right now with this offense, from what we've seen, and I know they put up a bunch of yards last week, South Florida is awful. I think this will be a lower scoring, kind of typical, two powerhouses going at it. So I'm going to take the under. What can I get? 60?
60.
Perfect. I'll take the under.
AR-15 is going to have one long touchdown run that's going to give – it's going to be like the catnip for Florida fans for the rest of the season, because it'll be probably very well set up within the game plan and within the scheme, because we're talking about Dan Mullen here, and he will find like one thing that's going to work, and then it won't work again, but it'll work to get Anthony Richardson the kind of touchdown that will get those fans going. Okay, so far we've got all right, I need to get another one out here. Bud's got 2. Danny's got 3. Let's go to what's the best number that I can get on Georgia Southern against Arkansas? 24, 24.5?
Yeah, I got 24s here.
Yeah, there's a 24.
Okay. So Georgia Southern's starting quarterback, the backup to Shai Werts last year, has been academically ineligible through the first 2 weeks of the season. His name is Justin Tomlin, and he prepared all fall camp like he was going to be the starter, has not been able to play. I think that has significantly impacted Georgia Southern's success on offense. And I think that within that program, there is a little bit of a spark and a little bit of excitement, not only being able to get an Arkansas team that is going to be a great test for the Eagles, but to know that you've got this player who might be your best offensive player, and he hasn't even played yet. So with that change at quarterback, I think that you've got a chance to see a better Georgia Southern than what we've seen so far. And then hangover game for Arkansas. I mean, you just beat Texas, and also, ranked Arkansas. I feel like I pull this from like the Tom Fornelli playbook. When you see teams that aren't normally in the top 25, when they break in, when they first get that little number next to their name, something they're not always used to, you're just like, and again, we're talking about a huge number here. Arkansas can win this game and can remain in the top 25. I'm not expecting a big upset. I just could see Georgia Southern being able to have enough success offensively with Tomlin that they could be able to hang inside this number.
It's extremely disrespectful of the second best team in the SEC West.
Hey, listen, I stand by it. I'm a fade ranked Arkansas on this one.
Got that North Carolina top 10 PTSD, huh?
Yeah. Always fade top 10 North Carolina. Like always fade the like number 23. Let's see who would pop up into the number 23 spot and get bounced pretty quickly.
Indiana.
Much love to the Cover 3 historian, Andrew. We love you. So I'm be jumping on Justin Tomlin, and I will be taking that Georgia Southern plus the points. All right, where do we want to go?
Well, I've already got 3, but I'll add a 4th. This one's another easy one to me. This is a case of wrong place, wrong time for Tulsa. I'm taking Ohio State minus 24.5. Like, I just think that coming off the loss last week, like Ohio State's offense has not been a problem. It got off to something of a slow start against Minnesota in the season opener, but ever since the second half of that game, like there has been we talked about it on the show yesterday, that they're hitting they're hitting the home runs. They're not hitting the singles and doubles as much as you would like them to. But I think that coming off the loss, there's going to be kind of a refocus on this game because they now know that, we can't screw up anymore. We can't afford another loss. We need to win out. And not only do we need to win out, but we need to be impressive and, en route. So any chance we get to run up a score on somebody, we need to take it. And I think defensively, I don't know what the situation will be with the defensive play calling this week. I don't know who's going to be calling the plays or what's going to be happening there in the future. But I do think that Tulsa is an offense that Ohio State doesn't have to get crazy against defensively to limit. I think that it's one of those cases where we've seen that defense plays well against teams where it just overpowers them with talent. And I think that this is another one of those cases coming into the weekend. So I'm not worried about it on the defensive side of the ball. And I also feel like the guys on that side of the ball probably feel a little challenged after not really playing well the first 2 weeks. So they might want to make a statement. I see this as being a game where Ohio State is going to take an early lead and will probably just continue to pile on as the game goes on, just to get the exercise the demons.
I've got to play in this game. I'm going back to the get off the bus angle. Ohio State gets off the bus and drops a 50 burger on Tulsa. Give me that over 42.5. And there's a little bit of a transfer portal angle in this. If you recruit as well as Ohio State does, there are certain games you got to get your backups in and you got to actually let them play, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. and Julian Fleming didn't sign with Ohio State to get in with 5 minutes left in the Tulsa game and run block. They got mouths to feed in that room if you want to keep everybody happy. I think Ohio State's going to try to keep scoring. Julian Fleming only 1 catch this year. Haven't even seen Harrison Jr. yet. There's a lot of guys on that team who are going to be future pros. I think Ryan Day is going to let them throw the ball. I also think we have a little bit of an under spot here. Or excuse me, an underrated spot here, not an under spot. That would be kind of bad if I'm going to bet the team total over, right?
Threading a needle for sure.
This Ohio State team, they had 600 yards of offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like normally that should be about 50 points, not what they scored. So people, I think, are looking at the actual points they scored as opposed to how well they moved the ball. And I think this is short. I think they're going to score 50. So. Team total over 42.5. I don't care about the hook.
Let's go. 50 burger, says Bud Elliott. Let's see. Danny, where do you want to go?
I got a 2-for-1 special with you.
Let's go.
I'm going to go to the Notre Dame-Purdue game. Notre Dame's a tough team to figure out, right? Like we're trying to see where they are. As I was watching Toledo take them in the end, I'm like, maybe Florida State's not as good as I thought. And then sure enough, that's what unfolded. I know one thing. Their defense is not very good right now. They've given up 67 points in the first 2 games. That's the most ever from a Notre Dame team through 2 games. The overs in Notre Dame games are 2-0 so far. So I'm going to take the over in this game. And I'm also, Jeff Brom is 16-5 against the spread as a dog. He's 13-2 against the spread as an underdog of 4 points or more. This game currently sits at, was it 6.5?
I get you 7.5 if you want.
7.5? Yeah, I think I'll take that. I'll take Purdue. Give me the Boilermakers getting 7.5, and I'll take the over. Brom likes to throw it around. They lost their running back. He's out. David Bell, really good receiver. I think he could have a field day. So I think it's going to be a higher scoring affair. Give me Purdue in the points and the over in the game.
Boiler up. This is a spot. I mean, could win. Like, this is, you talk about trying to figure out Notre Dame. This is going to go probably, I mean, could go many different ways, but Notre Dame could come out here and just finally get things going offensively, because Purdue's defense is very friendly. You know, Purdue's defense is more than happy to just, oh, do you want these 5 yards? Oh, do you want this third down conversion? Like, you can go and get it. But you mentioned David Bell. And as I look at this game and I think about what Jeff Brom has done through the first 2 weeks, where this Purdue team is taking care of business against lesser opponents in games it should win. There are a couple teams like this, like Auburn, you've taken care of business in games you should win. Arizona State, you've taken care of business in games you should win. This is our first opportunity to see you really tested. When you're making a selection with these teams, you have to decide whether the lack of being tested is something that concerns you, or whether you think that they have just been gearing up for this game as the one that they have circled. I think in the case of Purdue, that is what we have. They've got to see some blood in the water with the way that Notre Dame has played, and with sort of a little bit of an identity crisis that's going on with this Fighting Irish team. So I love Purdue here. Like Andy just mentioned in the chat, Purdue could win or get boat raced by 20 plus. I could see both of these situations, but I love it for college football reasons. It just seems like we could see David Bell with 14 catches, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns as Purdue ends up nabbing the in-state rivalry.
We are on different sides, but I'm not locking anything up, so I wish you both luck.
On both, the total too?
No, on the spread.
Okay.
On the total,
Gotcha.
I don't really have a great feel.
I was going to bet Purdue, but Purdue's running back broke his leg and is going to miss 4 to 8 weeks. So I'm a little that just scared me off. Like, I'm not in a rush to bet the Irish here.
You've got a sharp, like, the player updates, player availability, player injuries, from just my observation, seems to be a major part of your decision making when it comes down to firing on some of these picks.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is an underutilized area in the college game, whereas in the NFL, the injury updates are huge, right? Everybody pays attention to them. They almost overanalyze them. In college, I feel like that's a market inefficiency.
I'll give you
grind it out.
I saw that. I have this note for you. If it makes Chip, I'll give it make feel a little bit better. So Xander Horvath, he's the one who they lost. They replaced him with King Doru. But Brom doesn't really, like, he's called the 3rd fewest rush plays per game in 2020 of all FBS coaches. So I think, like, the run game, yeah, it's important. But again, by position, you plug in somebody else and they're going to be airing it out against a Notre Dame defense. Not very good. That might be what gets their run game right, though. I don't think it matters. That Notre Dame's given up 198 yards a game on the ground. So it might not matter who the run back is.
Purdue played Cincinnati.
What's that?
Has Purdue played Cincinnati before? I'm trying to think if Brom has faced Freeman. It's kind of interesting schematic matchup there.
I think so. I don't know.
I'm derailing the show. Sorry.
Okay. I've got sort of a coordinated play here. It is taking 2 teams that played against each other, and I'm just going to continue to ride with the way that the game finished for both of these teams. So I think I can get through them pretty quickly. Number 1, Toledo -14 hosting Colorado State. Colorado State just had its cookies taken by our beloved Vanderbilt Commodores, and I will continue to end up being, like, lower on the Rams than what seems to be a lot of the industry or market average. And I think that will continue to be profitable, especially against a Toledo team that is one of the best teams in the MAC. So as Toledo is, gearing up and trying to get everything rocking and rolling before conference play takes off and they make a run at that MAC title, I think that this Colorado State team traveling into town after what could be a deflating loss is an opportunity for us to get the Rockets to cover this 14 in the Glass Bowl. And also, I will continue to ride the momentum of the Vanderbilt Commodores, who found something special. You go on these long road trips, you've got the flight. It's a lot of team bonding, a lot of get to know you. And when it's associated with a win, the way that they pulled it off against Colorado State, I think that Vanderbilt comes back with some confidence and a lot of good energy. And oh boy, what a hangover spot for Stanford, which might have played above its head against USC and could be looking past this Vanderbilt team more than double digits. Let's go doors under the lights in Nash Vegas. Vanderbilt as well.
Lock agreement
Yeah.
on Toledo.
Okay.
Lock fight. on Stanford.
Going back to the well.
I think Tanner McKee is a major upgrade for Stanford over Jackson West. And I just think he's a much better quarterback. Stanford, to me, look, clearly there's a hangover spot. But there's also a hangover spot here potentially for Vanderbilt. They got to win after getting blitzed by kind of a not very good FCS team last week. So I'm going to go ahead and ride Tanner McKee. I think he's a substantial upgrade at the quarterback position here for Stanford.
Wait, did you just say that Vanderbilt could have a hangover from celebrating a win too much? They don't get do they get to do
that?
If
Stanford could have a hangover for beating USC, can't Vanderbilt have a hangover for getting any win? After the first week, they look like they wouldn't win a game.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't picture that squad resting on their laurels.
We could middle this lock fight here. Because I'm finding Vandy plus 12.5, and I found a Stanford minus 11.5. So if we can get a 12-point game here, you both win.
Stanford had USC, which it won, and it will be hosting UCLA next week. And all it needs to do is get in and out of Nashville with a win. They might not get that, but they won't get the cover. Give me the doors. Lego.
What's funny is we're talking about both teams having a hangover effect, where usually it's you don't get out of Nashville with a hangover.
That's 100% true. Coming up on the other side, more of our Week 3 locks next. I got to tell you, the right outfit can bring out something special. And with Indochino, creating your best look could be much more affordable than you even realize. I mean, it may have been a while since you've had the excuse to dress up, but those opportunities could be ahead in the coming weeks and the coming months. And so whatever that chance is, make sure that you make the most of it. And you don't always have a lot of time to be able to go out and to be shopping, to be trying to pull things off the rack. You don't always want to wait for someone to personalize or a tailor to fit you. But what if you could take that entire experience and you could do it all from the comfort of your home? Indochino offers completely custom fitted suits, shirts, casual wear at surprisingly affordable prices. Every piece is made to your exact measurements, and you can customize every single detail. I've been through the process. It is every little inch of your body. Do you have a body that doesn't fit right off the rack? Indochino is absolutely perfect with their customization process. The best part, Indochino's suits start at just $399 with all customizations included in the price. Indochino is now open at select Nordstrom stores, giving you even more great ways to get great fitting, personalized clothing. To find the nearest location, go to Indochino.com. And right now, if you want to do that experience at home, you can get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using the code COVER3 at checkout. Again, that is $50 off any purchase of $399 or more at Indochino.com and use the promo code COVER3 at checkout. That is INDOCHINO.com, Indochino.com. When you get through checkout, use the code COVER3 for $50 off any purchase of $399 or more. All right, let's call up the locks doc. So Bud is out with Troy minus 9.5, Auburn team total under 24, Ohio State team total over 42.5, Toledo minus 14, Stanford minus 11.5. Danny, we got a 2-for-1 special on Purdue plus 7.5, Notre Dame Purdue over, also on the under for Florida-Bama, the over for Auburn-Penn State and Miami minus 6.5. I've got Georgia Southern, the under in Auburn-Penn State, Purdue plus 7.5, Toledo minus 14, Vandy plus 12.5. Tom's got Michigan State plus 6.5, and then Penn State minus 4.5, Alabama minus 14, and Ohio State minus 24.5. Man, you're getting all the traffic. Tom's card is getting all of the traffic. Chartbeat is going nuts with this group right here.
Oh, Chartbeat.
Throwback for you right there.
Yeah. I was in a contract negotiation when I broke the Jameis crab leg stuff, And we had to renew our Chartbeat thing and up the capacity of Chartbeat like 3 times. And I was sitting in our New York offices with my bosses at SB Nation. It was just tremendous timing. That was great.
I'm sorry. Did I break your traffic? Let's talk more about this contract. Okay. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got I think 3 or 4 left.
I've got a lot more than that left.
Well, then
I think Tom's gonna have more than me this week.
I don't know. I've got some that are just kind of hanging by a thread. We'll see how I'm feeling. I'm going to start with a game that, maybe it's not a Chartbeat game. Maybe it is not one of the bigger headline games, but in this household and in my power ratings, this is a showdown game because these are 2 teams that have been kind of defying what my numbers say. And I feel like this is their last chance to either prove me wrong or prove me right. I am taking Minnesota +3 at Colorado. I don't think Colorado deserves to be 3 points better than Minnesota, but Colorado has overperformed my numbers. I don't think Minnesota deserves to be 3 points worse than Colorado, but Minnesota has underperformed my numbers. So I'm taking this isn't really even about an actual bet as much as it's about taking a stand. It's about a principle. One of these teams is going to prove something to me on Saturday. I'm going to trust my numbers for now and take Minnesota +3.
What a fun game. Like whenever you catch these teams that could occupy the same kind of space in their division, probably going to overreact to what it means for the conferences, when we tally up all these non-conference records here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I love this game. I have no confidence whatsoever on either side.
All right. Well, should I reel off another one?
Yes.
All right, fine. This one is mostly, it's a sad lock, but it is a lock nonetheless, because we all know how high I was on the Kansas State team total over before the season began with the wins. And that kind of went out the window in my mind as soon as Skylar Thompson went down with an injury. And now the Wildcats will be at home this week with Will Howard, who, as we saw last season, I hope he's improved because it'd be good for my win total bet. It'd be good for Kansas State. It'd be good for college football. But there was a drastic drop off between Skylar Thompson and Will Howard. And until I see Howard is really improved, I'm not going to expect it to happen. And Nevada's coming to town to Manhattan with Carson Strong, who might be the first quarterback taken in the draft next spring, or if not, he's going to be an early round pick. So there's just a huge disparity between the 2 quarterbacks on these teams. And this is one of those instances where I'm going to back the quarterback. This is a Nevada team that has a strong quarterback, and they take advantage of it. If you look at their passing rates compared to their run rates, Nevada's not really interested in running the ball because they've realized they don't have to. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty well against this Kansas State defense. I don't think they're going to go up and down the field on them because I do think Kansas State's defense is still pretty solid. But I like the Wolfpack going on the road to get me a win. So give me Nevada -1.5.
Ow! I love it.
All right, I've got one here. Give me Duke +3.
Oh, nice. Nice.
That is an ugly game.
Yes.
However, Northwestern played Indiana State last weekend. They won, 24-6, I think?
Yeah, something stupid.
The 6 is solid. The 24 is concerning. Indiana State had 9 tackles for loss against this Northwestern offensive line. That is a continuation of what we saw from the Northwestern offensive line in that opening week when a Michigan State defensive front that I don't think is all that good consistently harassed the Northwestern quarterback. And I just don't think that Northwestern should be laying points on the road here. So go ahead and give me Duke +3. And if you're a live show guy, I think it's going to get bet down. So congrats on watching us live if you want to join me on this. Because if you wait till this comes out on the pod, I'd be gone.
Is it? You think it's about to move?
Yeah.
It's kind of trending that way, yeah.
Okay, I am not going to coattail you for the purposes of this competition, which we are competing against each other. But I will say that that's note taken here, because I was listening in the car, and sports radio on the way to drop off, and they're like, you can get into Duke and Northwestern for $11. Like, I was just going back and realizing that the demand for this Power 5 matchup is not high right now. And I was curious to see what the environment was going to be, and Duke catching points in a game that they can win that will look better and good maybe than the quality of the competition. Like, for Duke to be able to say we beat Northwestern, I like that motivational angle. So yeah, I support that 100%. So
I got a lock that I got a standing lock until it gets beaten that I'm just gonna have, so we can just go through this one quick. Give me whoever's playing UConn. This week it's Army. Army's laying 34. So I think this is one of the reasons why I like it. UConn wants no part of football this year. You think they're going to want a part of the triple option where those offensive linemen are firing out at their ankles? They're going to want no part of it. The other thing that I have too is the way, like last week, got the backdoor cover with Western Kentucky. Army was running through them, kind of let them back in. I think the Army staff can go over and, hey, don't let this team back in. I'm telling you, I'm going to fade UConn all year long. I don't think they want to play. I don't think they want to show up. They've been outscored against FBS opponents 94-0. They have not scored a touchdown against an FBS opponent. Their only points came in the loss to Holy Cross. I don't think they're going to score against Army either. I think Army's going to run up and down the field against them. Give me Army laying 34.
CBS Sports Network star Danny Cannell has a firm fade UConn play. And if I could get you...
I should have taken that back.
if I can get you to explain this theory, please, at the desk, it would make me happy. I'll catch it on Inside College Football or
there you go.
One of the fine pieces of programming on the mothership.
Strict no gambling policy. No lines mentioned on air. Just on the Cover 3 pod.
Danny, what do you think? I think it's Army's going to win, specifically by 34 points or more. I don't know if you guys have checked up on, the weather in Laramie, but it's going to be windy in Laramie. 15 to 25 mile an hour winds as Ball State visits Wyoming, a Ball State team that might be a little sluggish coming off the Penn State game in Happy Valley, traveling all the way out to Wyoming, and a Wyoming team that, as we know, seems to just enjoy taking care of business in a way that works with our windy unders in Laramie. My guy Andrew texted me on Monday the weather report for Laramie. He said he already fired on it, and he added this note where he said, "This is a Fernelli Bud stat if I've ever heard one. The winds of 15 to 20 mile an hour or greater decrease pass efficiency by approximately 0.5 yards per attempt." So as Drew Plitt, the Ball State quarterback, tries to get in there and tries to move the ball, well, we're going to have these wonderful, wonderful Wyoming winds. And on top of all that, when we're looking for our checkbox of windy Laramie unders, we got to look at the kickoff time. It's going to be an afternoon kickoff. The sun is going to be in the sky. And Tom, what does the sun do?
Sun powers the wind.
The sun powers the wind. Okay. Sun powers the wind. Daytime, 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. A Ball State team that might be in a hangover spot. Under in Wyoming and Ball State.
You know my philosophy. I can't agree with you because it's going to be a little warm. I don't like wonders when it's warm out. It's better when it's cold. But those are pretty strong winds, and it is Laramie, so you've got that going for you, and I support you.
But
not doing it.
Okay.
I thought about it, but Wyoming did give up a whole heck of a lot of points last weekend to NIU, and Ball State can pitch it around. So if this maybe dips to like 12 mile an hour winds, I'm not going to do it.
15 to 25. Gusty. The little.
That's
be next level.
Laramie, though.
What if you could ISO when it's going to be gustiest, and you figure out it'd be much more gusty in the first half, and then you're betting first half unders, Chip?
Actually, we have looked at some of the later afternoon kickoffs because the wind does calm down once the sun sets, and so you've got to just jump on the first half under because then you're going to really lose your edge after halftime.
Smart.
Some of this science might not be confirmed. All right, I'm going to go. I'll go next. I'm going to take an over. I haven't taken a total yet today, so I might as well take an over because that's what I normally do. I am taking Mississippi State's team total over 33.5. Like, they're playing Memphis. I don't know if you guys saw Memphis's game last week against Arkansas State. It was a defensive slugfest. The final score was Memphis 55, Arkansas State 50. But more than anything, It's not just that the Tigers gave up 680 yards in the game and nearly 7 yards per play. It's that of the yardage they allowed, they only allowed 98 yards rushing. They allowed 582 yards in the air. And we have talked about it with Mike Leach and that offense. They look for, mismatches they can exploit. They look for the weakness on the other team, and then they just go to that well over and over again. And they've had difficulty finding that at times against SEC opponents. But I think in this matchup against a Memphis defense that has been weak against the pass, they're not going to have nearly the same level of difficulty finding those mismatches to exploit. I think it's going to be a good day for the Bulldogs offense. So Mississippi State over 33.5 points.
Dig it. I haven't really gotten my arms around Memphis yet. And the Arkansas State game was so bananas that I'm not quite, other than what you're saying, which is you point to the defense and say, well, Memphis
it's
defense.
bad.
Yeah, Memphis defense still is Memphis defense. But I'm excited because I think that's going to be a fun game. Any other plays on that little rivalry in Memphis, Mississippi State?
Is that a rivalry? I feel like the Ole Miss Memphis is more of a rivalry.
Probably more, but I was just, since Memphis
same location. Yeah.
Memphis might as well be in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
what did you guys use for home field advantage here?
See, that's the thing.
Like I don't
have one.
Yeah, but like Mississippi State will travel well.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because when you see some Memphis home games like during the season, there's some empty seats in the Liberty Bowl, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a situation where Mississippi State fans outnumber Memphis fans. It's a huge fan base. It's just alumni wise, there's just they outnumber Memphis.
But you mentioned Northern Illinois as a team that you feel like you have adjusted on. They're going to be traveling to Michigan. Do you have any? Are you touching that at all?
If that touches 28, I will probably go ahead and touch that one. The other thing is I bet the under 55 here earlier, but it's already dropped a point or point and a half at some places, so I'm not touching that now. That's kind of the last number I wanted to take under in that. I really feel like I'm going to end up on Memphis, but I want to see if this will go to 4.
I have a play for that game.
You do?
You have to play for Michigan, Northern Illinois?
Yeah, I'm going over.
Michigan home overs?
It's somewhat, yeah. We talked about this a little too yesterday, Chip. It's Michigan, when it has the chance to put on a show, it usually does. Against teams that it kind of overmatches, they don't really take their foot off the gas. They put up 40 to 50 points on them, and I think this is a case where Michigan could get into the mid to upper 40s. I think Northern Illinois will have some points maybe late in the game in the second half. And it is kind of, as you mentioned, like Michigan at home, there is a trend when they are at home, they score a lot of points. They like to put on a show for the fans, make everybody feel good, because hopefully that helps alleviate the loss to Ohio State later in the season. It usually doesn't, but it gives you the dopamine hit in September and October. So I am taking the over 54 in Michigan, Northern Illinois.
I'm going to take us to probably one of my, outside of Georgia Southern, this might be my most reckless pick. I'm going to lay these points with Arizona State at BYU. You start doing the digging around the old, what's it, the Deseret News? Is that how you pronounce it?
Deseret. I've always
Deseret News.
Deseret, but I don't know.
All the local media, which does a really good job. And in Provo, Utah, BYU football is going to get covered like an NFL team. You can get a lot of quotes, comments, and insight from some of the players and the coaches. And Kalani Sitake himself came out and was like, that win meant a lot. First win against Utah since 2009. Fans storming the field. Kalani Sitake, great, awesome scene of him, charging up and down the sideline, celebrating it. So seemed like they had a hard time turning the page to get into the next week. This is your third straight Pac-12 opponent. And again, back to one of my points earlier where BYU is more battle-tested. They are 2-0. They have got shaken off a sluggish start against Arizona. They have done a good job being able to get the win against a good Utah team. Now here comes an Arizona State team that all it's done is basically what's expected. They have not really been challenged along the way, because whether you're winning these games by an average of 42 to 14, just routine rhythm. And I think that Arizona State might have just been looking at those first 2 weeks as preseason and looked at BYU on the road as this is a really important game for us. So does BYU have enough gas left in the tank for an Arizona State team that I think will be fresher? Then when it comes down to it, we've got a small spread. Jaden Daniels is simply one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in college football right now. His pass efficiency, his touchdown to turnovers in the fourth quarter among active FBS quarterbacks are some of the best since he took over as the starter back in 2019 as a true freshman. So again, I think it is among my more reckless because I've looked at a BYU team that seems to have 2 Pac-12 wins on its resume against Arizona State that hasn't really been tested yet, and it's in Provo. I mean, this BYU fan base, they traveled to Las Vegas for the Arizona game in a big way. They made tons of noise, and I think that they're going to be rowdy again. But over the course of 60 minutes, and once it gets down into crunch time, Jaden Daniels greater than Jaron Hall, though I think Hall has been pretty good so far, and I'll take the Sun Devils lay in the short number.
If this gets back down to 3, I will be joining you in the group chat. But I can't lay over the field goal. But I think you're on the right side here.
I just have a hard time trusting Arizona State as a favorite.
Is the running back going to be back for them?
Don't know.
Train him?
Don't know. I mean, to me, Arizona State, and to go deeper, I think Arizona State wins because on the back half of their defense, they're great. They're old. They're experienced. They've been playing together for a really long time. They do a good job. I know we all hate turnover luck here, but they do a good job of forcing turnovers and being able to set Jaden Daniels up in good situations. I think they're pretty good at being able to get pressure on the quarterback when they do decide to send extra rushers. They do a good job of getting home. Again, offensively, I don't think that Arizona State is overwhelming. They just have one of the most dynamic playmakers at the quarterback position. So, yeah, this is my bet that Arizona State is going to be able to show up and after flying kind of below the radar with USC being a headline in the Pac-12 South for the wrong reasons, UCLA being a headline for the right reasons, kind of introduce themselves to the national scene as a real contender there.
I got one out west since you're out west. A little Pac-12 after dark action. Fresno State has been a thorn in the Pac-12 side. Jay Kaner, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They're playing against UCLA, who we still haven't seen since the impressive win against LSU. I'll give you some stats. Fresno State, they are an FBS best 38-20-2 against the spread, 66% rate since the start of 2016. Since the start of 2017, they're 13-3-1 against the spread as an underdog. And then how about 5-0 against the spread versus Pac-12 opponents since 2017? Give me Fresno State catching 11.5 against UCLA. This is a team too. We saw them go, they came back a little bit later, but they still played Oregon pretty tough in that game. When they covered that one for me too.
I don't hate it at all.
I know. How much agreement and how many fights do we have right now? Because I
agree with Danny on this. I'm going to take lock agreement.
All right.
I already bet at 11, so 11.5 is even better for me. If you guys find a 24 for the team total for Fresno, I think that's even better, to be honest, but I don't see one right now. So,
Fresno.
I have 2 plays left. I've pared the list down a little bit.
I think I'm the same.
Yeah, I've got a couple. That's it.
Virginia.
I thought you were going to be like serious volume today.
I was, but I've kind of pared some down as we've gone along. Just, I'm trying to discipline Danny over here.
The influence.
Virginia plus the points at North Carolina. I think that there is, everything about the way that these two teams are power rated, line's probably right. But man, there is something about Bronco that he has decided that North Carolina is the team. Like he pushes the right buttons to get Virginia ready for North Carolina. He's decided that that's the team that we're going against. Guys, some of the quotes coming out of Virginia this week, tell me what you think that this says. He says, This is not from Bronco Mendenhall, but the paraphrasing the quote, he said, as long as we go in there and we play our culture, then we'll be fine and we'll win the game because their culture isn't like our culture. And this is Virginia saying this. They are saying that light blue is soft. They are saying that this North Carolina team doesn't want to fight. They put on that Virginia Tech film and they said, oh, we are good. We are golden. And there's something about this, like Bronco Mendenhall, like culture, mentality. They're shattering stones in the locker room with a sledgehammer. Like Virginia really wants to go and turn this game into an absolute fist fight. They want to take this North Carolina defense and they want to get their eyes moving in the wrong direction as we kind of roll out this offense that has a lot of different formations and a lot of different window dressing. You could have, Keaton Thompson or Brennan Armstrong as the primary playmaker at any time, and they're on the field at the same time. I think North Carolina ultimately does have the Sam Howell that can lead them to a win, but catching this at more than a touchdown, given the series history, my guy Joe Giglio said there's a lot of Tom O'Brien to Bronco Mendenhall in the way that he has just decided in his own brain that it's like this, we're going to beat North Carolina. This is what matters. And I think that at more than a touchdown, that's some value on the visiting Wahoos.
I mean, it would be a huge win simply from the fact that you'd be handing North Carolina its second conference loss already, which would be, you get the tiebreaker on them, obviously, with yourself, but going forward, you could kind of be like knocking the Tar Heels out of the race.
Yep. I have a play on this game, and it's similar to Chip. Give me that under 67.
Yeah.
I think playing our culture means not getting into the tempo race. This is an interesting, clash of styles. I also think that North Carolina here, I think their corners are much better than Illinois' corners. Tom, I don't know what you think about Illinois' corners, but they got mossed.
Good.
Yeah, they got mossed by UVA last week. I think UNC's corners are pretty legit, and I think they could limit some explosive plays that way. I also think that UVA or that UEA will probably not allow a ton of explosive plays to North Carolina. That has traditionally been Broncos' thing, with the exception of last year when they had all the COVID stuff going on and the injuries. So Tom, I think, or Chip, I think we both will get to the window here. Give me the under 67.
Yeah. I also like sometimes after you have the year after you have a shootout in a division rivalry, I almost think it's unlikely that you're going to have it again. I think it was 44-41 Virginia win, something around there last year. Okay. I've got one left before we get to Moneyline Sprinkles.
I got two.
I have two.
Okay, Bud or Danny? Yeah, how many you got left?
I got one or two. Go ahead. I'll see what you guys have. Right. Trying to use some discipline.
All right, Bud, you can go first.
Going down to the Bayou. LSU under team total 40.5. This offense is not right. Missouri put up 34 against the Central Michigan team. I don't think CMU is all that great. LSU has I don't want to call it a huge look ahead spot, but their quarterback depth right now is sketchy, right? With Brennan being out, I don't think they're going to leave Max Johnson in there to try to chuck the ball around all game. And LSU can't run the ball worth damn right now. So I don't think they're going to be scoring a whole lot of points late. And Central Michigan's defense is sort of in the bad but not terrible category for me. So go ahead and give me LSU team total under 40.5.
Fade the Tigers.
Like, how many people watched McNeese State? 4.7 yards of play against McNeese State last week. That offense ain't good.
No.
If they played their opponents in a different schedule, Orgeron would have just as much heat on him as Clay Helton did. They just got lucky they had an FCS team come in.
I wanted Central Michigan, but I couldn't talk myself into it. And that was on some it would be hilarious principle.
Chip, it's not just going to be windy in Laramie this week. We've got some crosswind action in Fort Collins, Colorado, where the Air Force Falcons will be hosting Utah State at Falcon Stadium.
Yes.
So I am taking the under 54.5 in Utah State Air Force. I mean, it's not just the weather. It's also the fact that Air Force, bleeds a lot of clock. I think Utah State's been somewhat conservative to start the season 2 offensively. I mean, they've got a high pace, but they haven't been explosive from what I've seen. And I think that this is going to be, kind of a lower scoring affair than the total suggests. So give it to me.
I kind of like Utah State. I'm not putting it as a lock here, but Utah State plus a big number and the under. Those would be two things that would be in agreement. So I like that. Okay, Marshall minus. Can I still get a 10, or do I have to go 10.5?
Oh, I think
It's
it might
ECU.
be 10.5. Hold on, let me check.
I don't know how much of.
I get you 10.
Oh, let's go. I don't know how much of South Carolina ECU y'all watched, but like ECU caught every break. Like every potentially controversial call went ECU's way, and against South Carolina, you know, the all the bounces went ECU's way. Everything was set up for ECU to be able to notch SEC home win, and yet they could not get the job done. And now you're facing a very good Marshall team. Like, simply put, like, the Marshall defense is great. Grant Wells is very good. I think that this is a very good football team that is getting keyed up at the right time. And it is going to be tough after the App State game in Charlotte, after letting the South Carolina game get away, you know, field goal overtime loss, and to also now be facing this tuned up, like fully like good engine that is ready to go. I kind of think Marshall ends up winning big. So I will lay the 10 points with the herd. This might be a 14 to like 21 point game.
I was considering ECU, but I just couldn't do it. Like, again, that's another one of those situations, like kind of similar to my Minnesota-Colorado, where my numbers keep telling me ECU is better than it is. But at some point, it's like, okay, I got to reconsider where I have them ranked.
I got to go somewhere. We're ignoring the elephant in the room. There's a program I made a lot of money on last year. It's been a little bit of a rocky start this year. We have our Cover 3 historian. This is going to be me placing this on behalf of him, our Indiana fan. No one, and I mean no one, is giving the Hoosiers a chance against Cincinnati. No one. 4-point home dog. I'm hoping what Tom Allen's going to do is go back to the run game a little bit, right? They lost their running back last year. They've been getting a little bit more ground-based this year. I think the Iowa game was skewed because of all the interceptions that Michael Penix threw. So Michael Penix, very limited last week. Granted, easier opponent. I think they could kind of muck this game up, keep it a little bit ugly, closer. Cincinnati, is there a possibility they're looking ahead to Notre Dame after this game? I don't know. I'm going back to my well. I need to get a little bit of a confidence booster. Give me the Hoosiers catching 4 at home as the home dog.
I'm not locking it up, but like, this is the game where Indiana's supposed to cover. Like, this is typically, historically, where the Hoosiers cover and surprise people. Like, when they're ranked and people have expectations for them, I want absolutely nothing to do with the Hoosiers. But after they've been kind of written off, and like you said, they're a home dog to a Cincinnati team who, again, might be the best team in the group of 5, but they're still a road favorite against a, you know, decent Big Ten opponent. Yeah, I'm not locking it up with you, but this is like the kind of moment where Indiana would cover.
You said elephant in the room. I thought we were going to talk about the Knowles.
Oh, boy.
Like, so we don't have it.
That elephant's dead, Chip. It's just
we are in the 69th minute of this very nice podcast, and I have not heard nary a word about Florida State and Wake Forest. Can we at least get some expectations from the Tally boys?
I got nothing. I'm in a dark place right now. I still like Mike Norvell. I still like the direction this program is headed. I think sometimes you just got to flush some things out. I think that's what's happening right now. We talked a lot about the game against Jacksonville State. I have no idea what we're going to get against Wake. I mean, I do wonder. There's sort of this still weeding out process, guys from previous regimes contaminating the guys that are buying in. Not that dialed into the ground of what's happening in the locker room.
Yeah, if you look at the first half suspension or the first couple series suspensions, you can kind of tell who hasn't been buying in last week.
So
I'm going to live bet this game once I see who's in the lineup. They have some offensive line injuries you need to watch out for. I want to see how they're playing this defensively. Kalen DeLoach, their best coverage linebacker, suspended for the first half. So that might suggest go first half over. However, I actually think first half under 31.5. If you really want to bet something in this game, that's what I would bet. Wake tempo this year has not been quite what it's been. Their offense has not actually been very good on like an efficiency basis. They've scored some points. They've played Old Dominion, and Chip was the other team they played. It was an FCS squad. Under 31.5 would be worth a look.
I've got Wake on that same list as, one of my running themes through the week. I don't have a lot of data that I feel like I know what Wake Forest is. I'm excited to see Wake Forest in this spot because the ACC's Atlantic Division, while it has Clemson, is weaker than the Coastal. And as we see NC State fall back to the pack, and as Boston College has an injury to Phil Jurkovec, and Louisville, I guess we'll see against UCF, whether it's going to get up off the mat and throw any kind of haymakers. But like Florida State could be in real trouble and still be the third best team in the division. And a lot of that kind of depends on what we see out of Wake Forest, because I haven't seen a game or a performance yet that I would consider worthy of like changing my expectations. I did try to do some auditing of my numbers this week, and I created a stat that I called a limb value, aka how much I'm out on a limb for this team. And like Wake is my number one limb value. I am just all the way in on the Deeks, even though nothing says that you should be as high on them as I am right now. And so I will be putting that to the test and potentially adjusting if this thing goes if Florida State's way. Line opened at 6. I'm looking at 4.5. So clearly the visitors from Tallahassee are getting attention from someone.
I would say if I'm going to bet Wake Forest in this game, I'm not laying 5.5. I'm laying like 10.5. I want plus 200. I think there's a blowout factor here. I think there's a quit factor in this FSU team. I also think if they get down, they are not equipped to throw the football from behind. Like I want the added value, and I'll go ahead and give up points for it if I want to bet Wake here.
All right, I'm tapped out. Till money.
Go one more for me, I think. The other one I'm probably going to pass on. So Utah last weekend, pretty brutal loss to BYU, right? However, they were very much in that game, and they had a couple things go against their way, and then it kind of snowballed a little bit. I don't think Utah is a bad football team. I don't think San Diego State is anywhere near as good as they showed last week. And San Diego State's quarterback limited in practice this week. I'm going to go ahead and lay over a touchdown on the road with Utah. Give me that Utah. What can I get? 7.5, 8?
I can get you 8.
That's fine. I'll go ahead and lay the 8 with Utah. I think they'll run the football effectively on San Diego State, and I don't think San Diego State will be multidimensional enough to go ahead and keep this in single digits.
I will be live blogging Auburn and Penn State while this game goes on, so I'm not really going to be able to focus on it, which disappoints me because Utah and San Diego State have long been two of my late night save the day plays. I have one play left. It's another under. It's another wonder. It's going to be breezy on the blue turf on Saturday night. And plus, we've talked about it earlier this week, like Spencer Sanders, I feel like as a podcast, we are all out on. We are out on this Oklahoma State offense. The Boise State offense hasn't been particularly amazing to me from anything I've seen of it so far this season. So I'm taking the Boise Oak State under 57.5.
Love it. Boise, Idaho, another spot. Okay. All done, ready to move to money lines?
We have the dentist pick, I think.
Oh yeah. Let's hear the dentist.
Oh, we do have a dentist pick. Excuse me. All right. I was talking to him about correlated parlays earlier. Let me pull up. It's a nice weekend for those. So here's his write-up. Let's get back to the Rebels. I expect Ole Miss to get plenty of points this weekend versus Tulane. The Rebs are averaging 48.5 per game this year. So for the total, this will likely depend on Tulane's ability to score on Ole Miss. If Ole Miss scores 45, then I need Tulane to get 32 to get up to the total of 76.5. They were able to put up 35 in Oklahoma in their season opener, but I think they caught Oklahoma not taking them seriously, and they're a pretty good team. Ole Miss will take note of Tulane playing Oklahoma close and be better prepared. So I think this number is too high. If the game is a shootout, then I'll be wrong, obviously. But I think that the opening line of 72 was a better line if you wanted the over. Plus, I know Kiffin is trying not to show Saban everything he has before they play next Saturday. Give me the under 76.5. Tooth emoji, lock emoji.
I'm glad that the dentist is all the way in on his involvement and that he continues to be supportive of the Cover 3 podcast. Hopefully, he is taking Vanderbilt health insurance so that he can continue to be Barton's dentist and also continue to pass on any insight from that process. Okay, if you were watching on youtube.com/cover3, we're going to go to the board. Tom and Bud leading the way right now. Tom's got Michigan State plus 6.5, Penn State minus 4.5, Alabama minus 14, Ohio State minus 24.5, Minnesota plus 3, Nevada minus 1.5, the Mississippi State team total over 33.5, Michigan, Northern Illinois over 54, the Air Force, Utah State under 54.5, the Boise State, Oklahoma State under 57.5. Chip's got Georgia Southern plus 24, the under 53 in Auburn-Penn State, Purdue plus 7.5, Toledo minus 14, Vanderbilt plus 12.5, the Wyoming Ball State under 54, Arizona State minus 4, Virginia plus 8, Marshall minus 10. Danny's got Miami minus 6.5, the Auburn-Penn State over 52.5, Purdue plus 7.5, Notre Dame Purdue over 58, Florida, Bama under 60, Army minus 33.5, Fresno State plus 11.5, Indiana plus 4. Bud has Troy minus 9.5, the Auburn team total under 24, the Ohio State team total over 42.5, Toledo minus 14, Stanford minus 11.5, Duke plus 3, Fresno State plus 11.5, the North Carolina Virginia under 67, the LSU team total over 40.5, and Utah minus 8. Time to take it to the sprinkles, where our records are Tom at 4-1, up 5.65 units. Chip at 4-3, up 3.05 units. Bud 2-1, up 2.2 units. Danny 3-2, up 1.6 units. Above, we are making money on these Moneyline Sprinkles. So, Tom, you cashed Texas State last week, right?
Mm-hmm. And
So
lost
that means
Mizzou.
lost Mizzou, but I guess as the season leader, I'll let you get first dibs on the money lines.
All right, I've got 3. I will start with 2 that I've already got plays on the total, but I am taking Utah State plus 270, pull off the upset over Air Force. And I'm also, I know I kind of just disparaged them a moment ago as part of the reason I took the under, but like I said, I haven't really been super impressed with Boise either. So I'm taking a bit of a fly here. I think there's some value. I'm taking Oklahoma State plus 150. And then for my final money line sprinkle, we're going to a team that's already picked up one Power 5 win. And I think they could pull off another upset this week. I'm taking Charlotte plus 160.
Georgia State has not looked right at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in lock agreement on the Oklahoma State, Boise State.
For the Moneyline Sprinkle?
Yep, for Moneyline Sprinkle. I like that one. Are you done, Tom? I'm assuming you were done.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead. Like, this one's a swing for the fences a little bit. Bud was talking about Utah getting right against San Diego State. San Diego State is 6-2 straight up against the Pac-12 since 2017. Greg Bell's toting the rock for them. Give me the flyer. Give me the Pac-12. It's a bunch of okay teams, no great teams, except maybe this year Oregon is that squad. It's in San Diego. I'm going to take a little shot at the moon here. And then the last one for me, give me Virginia Tech. Sorry, Kotka, as the dog against West Virginia, the Mountaineers.
Yeah,
that was on the card. I didn't include it because I didn't want Coca crying.
I like the under in that game, but I don't think either team's gonna be very good in the red zone. See a lot of field goal attempts there. Moneyline sprinkles, give me Duke plus 130 with Northwestern in town. I will take Memphis against Mississippi State, and the swing for the fences one. Hey, let's say Jeff Brom gets it done. He's done it before. Plus 240 for Purdue going up against Notre Dame.
I have a question for Tom. How close were you to taking Illinois?
Not very.
Okay. This is not original, but I guess Tom went first, so I guess he could be copying me if I went first. Tom and I are in total agreement on 2 of the 3. I don't want Oklahoma State, but Utah State was one of mine, and Charlotte was my other. Georgia State does not look right to me at all. Charlotte looks reasonably competent. And Utah State screwed around for about the first 20 minutes of that game last week, and I had that on and I was watching it, and then they ran so fast tempo-wise, it made me look like I felt tired watching them. Like they were sprinting the line, nobody's set, and they're going, and they're chucking all over the place. This is basically a play based me thinking Navy might really be bad, and Air Force coming off a win. Maybe they're a little overrated now. Those are my two. I'm not gonna throw it on there, but I did bet VTech as well, and I'm probably gonna bet Memphis. So we're in very much like an all agreement today as far as the the upsets are gonna come.
Not 100% of agreement. I mean, we still got ourselves a couple lock fights out there.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Yeah, you know, we still got some red on the board. You know, Michigan State, Miami. That's going to be a Tom Danny. We got the total in Auburn-Penn State. That's going to be a Chip Danny. Then we got Vandy and Stanford. That's going to be a Chip Bud. So everyone's got a little bit of blood that is either going to be shed or taken on one way or the other.
I can't remember the last time I only had one either fight or agreement with somebody.
Yeah, and it's just that's it. There's no other agreements. I mean, you're just on an island. How it goes the whole way.
I could be way ahead. I could be way behind come Sunday.
and you know, just to remind the listeners, as a syndicate, we are 55-41 on the young season, up 9.9 units. So one way or another, Tom will either help us a lot or be a sinking stone to the syndicate's unit.
We have a dentist update about the insurance if we care.
Yeah, let's
do it.
Of course, I take Vanderbilt insurance. So Barton, as far as like it may be HIPAA for him to comment if Barton is still a patient, but he said they do take Vanderbilt University it's dental insurance.
Hey, and listen, anyone who's trying to ingratiate themselves with the local community knows that that's a great way to be able to do it and make some connections. So I think that's probably a smart business decision for the doctor.
I can't wait until we find out like Vanderbilt's defensive game plan was shortened this week because the DC's had a root canal and he's been at the dentist office all week.
Just right before we get out of here, I know it's late in the show and you know, we got to keep this moving, but Nebraska and Oklahoma, not a single play was made by any of the four of us. Just any thoughts or any hunches? Did it even come close to your card?
I had it on there, Nebraska plus 22. But if you remember, after the Illinois, I made a promise. This is principle. I would never take Adrian Martinez's side again, although he's been playing much better. Like, and I think this will be one of those backdoor cover type situations, but I cannot take an Adrian Martinez bet again. So I need to wait and see this one.
I lean towards Oklahoma. I didn't put it on the card. It was under consideration. I just think that this is another similar situation to where Oklahoma's defense against Tulane didn't look great, but I still think Oklahoma's defense is pretty good, and I think it's capable of forcing Martinez to stay in the pocket and beat him with his arm, and I don't think that happens.
My buy point on Nebraska is 26, so I'm not going to buy him here, and this may not be a bad live spot, though. Right, if Oklahoma gets out to a really big lead, potentially, but we'll see. No.
I'm not expecting it to be the game of the century again.
Yeah, just a couple of no bet teams for me. You know, I need some time. I need some time before I'm willing to step in there again. You can follow Laurie Loxlin on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Saturday night, after the conclusion of Penn State and Auburn, is that primetime, biggest primetime game? Tom will be live blogging. So as soon as he gets everything wrapped up, follow all of us on Twitter so that you can know when we will be going live for the Week 3 instant reaction. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.